Jenny McCarthy Show.
Oh! Congratulations, first of all. We've been talking behind your back about, they've seen the trailer, and like everyone that has seen the trailer goes, oh my God, this looks like the greatest new show. Yay. Now that I've seen 3 episodes, it is so amazing, and I can honestly say one of my favorite new shows on television.
Yes, I love it.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, you literally, Alicia, I was like, holy crap, you blew me away with your acting, your charisma, your choices. Kyle, was this very much like your mom, her character, or did you create her yourself? Did you ever watch tape of Big Kathy?
Alicia definitely made it her own. You know, we sat down and spoke. I shared stories of my mom, and she just, it's a fictionalized version of my mom and our life. So Alicia really, made it her own, and it's amazing. She's phenomenal. I'm so lucky to work with the best cast in the world.
Right? And how about this? The best wardrobe, the best hairstyles, the best production value. Why was this show so important for you guys to do? Let me start with you, Alicia.
Well, I read the script and I just thought, what a juicy character for anyone to play. And gosh, I would be so lucky to do this. Something really to sink my teeth into. What Bonnie Nolan goes through in the first episode, she goes through so much. So there's so much for me to do. It's a very juicy, meaty part, and that doesn't always show up. So I was really excited about that. And then I sat with Kyle and John Rigi, the creator, and John Wells, the producers, their company, and Alex Hardcastle. And just between Kyle's stories of her mother and how outrageous and wild and amazing this woman was. I love how she'd always say that she would be sort of irresponsible, but you knew that you always felt loved.
Always felt loved. We're all just doing our best as moms,
yeah,
right?
But as an actress listening to these stories, they're very juicy.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? Because she does really some things that you just go, no, don't do that. Right. But so I think that's really exciting. And then mixed with John Rigi talking about what he wanted to do from a dramatic point of view, and sort of mixing the two worlds. I got the chills and I felt so excited. So
I don't blame you. How about you? What made you go, I need to do this part?
Well, I mean, I was really excited about the time. I love the 70s, and I loved that it was female-centric. I originally just got, the pilot to read, and then I was able to go in and meet with our producers and creator and talk a little bit about that first episode and the beginning of this story. And I had a little idea of Kathleen and where she sort of came from and a little bit of where she was going.
How do you describe her character for those that don't know yet?
Well, I think it's safe to say that, Alicia's character, Bonnie, she's based on or inspired by Kyle's mom, and that Kyle's mother had, this phenomenal female support around her. And so the characters of Kathleen and Diana are based on that inspiration and support. And, Kathleen is just a lot of fun. I mean, I'd been wanting to work in the comedic space, like that space, it being a dramedy, a lot more. I'd wanted to always play a character like Kathleen. I was very excited, but I was slightly anxious about it in the beginning. But the show really it does evolve. You only see so much in the beginning, and
I feel like you see so much, but you do see a lot. Like you said, so much happens.
Yeah.
Just right off the start. What about you, Jennifer? What made you want to go, this show's for me?
Well, I mean, it's kind of piggybacking off of the fact that it's what you ladies have said so wonderfully. I mean, I'm a fan of Kyle Richards. I've always been a fan of who hasn't? I mean, but the juicy stories of her mother and coming up in Hollywood, and those are fun stories to watch and to depict. And I also think it's about 3 strong women, and I think there's still not enough strong female-driven, female-led programming out there where we, I think come together, we lift each other up within this friendship circle, and they all have their own journeys. And I think it's nice when, as a viewer, I can look and see and say to myself, I have a sense of community, or I feel like I align with this character, or I understand what she's going through. You feel less alone, and I feel like to be a part of something like that, to make people feel less alone is part of why I like this project.
And even though the show's from the 70s, all the characters are so relatable. Like, I think everyone can find a little piece of themselves in each character.
And the topics and things that we are addressing throughout the series are so relevant now, today. You know, we think we've come so far, but we actually really haven't. We're still dealing with all the same issues. We're getting a little bit better, but, you know, we're getting there.
Baby steps. Why was it important, you know, to talk about your mother's experience? Why was this important for you? I know you said it was like a love letter.
Yeah, you know, honestly, my mom was the biggest influence in my life, and growing up, I knew I didn't have a normal upbringing. You know, in addition to being a child actor, it was just a unique upbringing, to say the least. And, you know, when my mom was sick, I like to write, so I would, you know, kind of reflect back on my life and who she was. And eventually, after she passed away, I thought, you know, one day I want to share her story and her journey of being a single mom in that time. 70s is my favorite era. I just love it. The clothing, the music, just everything about it. And it was just important to me to share that. It was cathartic in a lot of ways.
And not to give too much away, but, you know, Mena, your character is rich and offers support.
Daddy.
And I thought it was interesting because I know it's, you know, based on true events, or not events.
Fictionalized version of, yes.
Better way of saying it. Did your mom, did she deny support from friends? Was that a real thing?
that a lot of, like I said, it's a fictionalized version. You know, they have my mom like pawning her jewelry. You know, my mom would never do that. She would be like, I'm not partying with anything.
I'll figure it out some other way.
Yeah, there's
She
no
didn't
way
want
that
to
was
get
going
rid of the
anywhere.
pool, right?
So
She was
it's
like,
a
I will not.
fictionalized version.
Wasn't your mom
absolutely.
like not getting rid of the house and the pool, even though
but
you were
my
totally
mom, no, I
fine?
mean, when my parents got divorced, my mom was like, you know, this is my kid's home. This is where they grew up, and I'm not changing their lifestyle. I want them to continue to have everything. So we were acting, you know, and, you know, so it was basically us taking, you know, over and taking care of ourselves. And my mom was our manager.
And did you feel like so much pressure? I mean, I felt like when I started to make money at 19, I felt that enormous responsibility to move my parents out of the bad neighborhood, pay off their debt, put them in a good neighborhood, and take care of them. I can't imagine at a very young age, because you were a Little House on the Prairie. I mean, you guys started young.
I didn't feel that pressure. Honestly, I was so young and I didn't know the difference. And Kathy and Kim had already been acting, and I was the third, and my mom, I think, kind of put me in it because I was shy, and she thought that'll help her overcome her shyness. And I think she was the typical mom, not wanting the third daughter to be left out. So I started acting when I was a baby, but I never felt the pressure. And I actually had a great experience growing up acting. I worked with incredible people. I did amazing things, and, you know, traveled, you know, all over. So for
You
me,
do
it was
have a very fascinating life, I must say. I'm glad you're on reality TV.
well, reality television.
We get to watch it.
Oh gosh, yeah, scary sometimes.
In the show, Bonnie has 2 daughters. Why not 3?
Because we wanted it to be a fictionalized version, so it had to be. We didn't want it right on the nose, you know. So we did.
So no one could say that's so and so and so and so.
Right.
And so.
And actually, you know, I'm only telling stories from my perspective, my life. I'm not sharing my sister's stories, and it's a fictionalized version of it. So it was just basically my story
got
from
it.
both ages.
Isn't that interesting? Because I've written books, a bunch of them, about my childhood, and I have 3 sisters, and they call me and they go, what house were you raised in? Oh, no. Because each one of their perceptions were completely different. And I always find that so fascinating, so I can completely relate, where maybe your sisters are like, what? But, you know, we see through our own lenses.
Exactly. You know, and there's, you know, the age gap, what I was doing, you know, when I was 5 years old and Kathy was 15, you know, we're, you know, different stuff going on. So I was just telling it from my perspective.
Have your daughters seen the show?
They've seen, parts of my daughter's seen the pilot, and Portia only saw part of it because it's not for kids. I mean, you know, there's a lot of stuff coming up that she will not be watching.
Although, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, watching it, I'm like, wow, this is really important for girls to see this, like women, young women.
Yeah.
What is that age group then that you say is, okay, here's the line?
You know, I grew up in a house that really didn't have rules. I mean, my mom was strict about, manners and, a lot of things. But when it came to like rules, my mom was a rule breaker, and there weren't rules in my house. So when I had a baby at 19, I was completely the opposite. I mean, my kids are not allowed to watch anything inappropriate on television. I mean, not even like The Simpsons, nothing. I was so like neurotic about what they watch and monitor everything. I still do. So
Do they see The Housewives?
they see The Housewives. Portia sees parts of it, but
How old
I mean,
is Portia?
she's 10, but
Oh, that makes sense.
yeah, she's too young to, she's an old soul, but I don't like her seeing some of this stuff.
But and Alicia, you're a mom, so I have to pose this to both of you guys. It's interesting because you said that your mom made you very independent. She had to trust you guys. You were driving at 13, driving yourself to work.
Yeah,
very
I
independent.
had a checkbook at 10 years old.
It's crazy.
Those are those crazy stories.
Right. You're right. They're crazy stories. But do you think, can you imagine Portia doing that at 13?
I mean, when I think about my mom, what she did, I'm in awe of her. Kind of reflecting back, especially doing a show like this and talking about her and bringing her to life again. My mom, when she got divorced from my dad, she all of a sudden found herself like she didn't know about money or paying taxes. She knew nothing. She didn't have a checkbook. She was all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And then when she was raising us, she's like, I don't ever want my girls to be in that position. So we were on TV shows and working and movies. So she let me have a checkbook at 10 years old, and I would go to the unemployment line with my mom. This sounds so ridiculous. And I got to keep my unemployment checks when I was on hiatus, and I opened a checking account, and my mom wanted me to learn to take charge and be responsible. And I mean, I bounced checks all the time. And my mom would be like, I have never bounced a check in my life. And I was like, hey, I don't know what to tell you.
But
There were
also,
still checks left.
At 10 years old, what were you writing a check for? Like 2 bubblegums and a Barbie doll?
Pretty much. That's exactly
Okay.
right. Well, there was nobody that would take my checks except like 2 places, pretty much. There was the Glenn Center in Bel Air in LA that they knew me, so they would take my checks. That
is so funny.
I didn't have a driver's license. It was like telecheck. So, I
Like
had
cartoon characters.
Free
on the
range
check.
parenting kind of.
I did a cartoon.
Are you?
Hello Kitty.
How would you describe yourself? Helicopter mom, free range. These are the terms now.
I don't know that I have a title like that. I don't know. I
Just love your kid.
I think attachment parenting was what I did, and he's so independent because of it. Like, he's so fiercely independent.
Can you describe what that means?
To be fiercely independent?
No, the attachment.
What does it look like? He was on me in my ergo. He was on my boob for a long, long time.
Good for you.
And we still sleep together. It's lovely. And
So do me and Evan.
yeah, and he was just always on me, so that I was free because he was on me. You know what I mean? If they're right here, your hands are free to do everything.
Yeah, it's true.
And they're right here, so you can see their delicious little faces all the time and kiss them constantly. And then what happens is the second they start moving, they they run away from you. And it's not like they want to get away, like they didn't love being there. It's just their needs were so met that they're so comfy in their skin, so they're so free to be. And so, when I was doing Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Bear was, I think, 5.5 or something, and he would come to set with me he would go to his little Waldorf school during the day in Atlanta, Georgia. Isn't the best? Then he would come meet me at school, on the set, and I didn't have a babysitter there. The problem with this is now he will not come to set without a babysitter. So it's a little bit tricky. Like, he's like, I'm not going if if I have to have a babysitter there.
Too boring on the set.
Which I'm like, you can't do that all the time. Like, on our set,
Right.
we can't have that. And I remember the ADs he came one day, and the ADs were like, whoa,
Too much.
we can't handle. And I'm like, he's fine. But,
Right.
But on Diary of a Wimpy Kid, he would just walk. He would scooter around and play with all the other kids. And anyway, he's just really. I took him to a concert the other day, which was a little bit of not the best move, but because he's
What
only
concert?
Hyde. Is that
Okay.
what they're called? Hydes.
I'm not even
Hydes.
sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. They're 4 girls, and
Haim.
Haim.
4 sisters. There's three
Haim.
sisters.
There's 4 girls. Or no, 3 girls. Like, there are a lot of legs.
Yeah.
How many legs were there so we can figure out how many girls there were?
Well, anyway, he just ran right to the front. And then I was like, Bear, your ears. And so then I put, but he just goes, and I don't have to really worry. And then we went up to this, he found this like area that we weren't supposed to be in above. He gets us up there. He sits next to the guy who's doing the sound booth. He starts working the sound booth with the guy who gave him a button to push.
Future DJ.
And then they came to get us. They're like, "You can't be up here, ma'am." And I said, "I'm sorry, let me just get my friends." And my friend said, "Tell them that Bear knows the sound guy." And it actually worked. No way. I went over to the sound guy. And the sound guy, I said, "I'm so sorry, they're asking us to leave." And he said, No, they're with us. And so Bear got us in.
No way. Hey, wait, and how old is he?
7.
Guess what? You're doing something right. I'm talking to the cast of American Woman. You know, Jennifer, I want to ask you this question because Diana is the only one, I would say, with a real job. Yeah. And we see her go into her office and she deals with her boss, who's kind of a douche. Why does Diana have this breakdown in the pool scene? What happens that you come off so strong and then you break down?
Well, I think that as with many people, you can only take so much. You can only, be so strong and bottle things up. And as the series progresses, you see that she has difficulties at life with home, with supporting and caring for her mother, and that's kind of a tumultuous relationship. And she is the single friend too, so she, I think, leans into the idea, whether she fully believes it or not, of, well, I don't need a man. I love my job and I'm independent and I got this, you know? And that's, I think, still prevalent now where you're like, you're brushing your hair in the mirror and you're like, I'm good. And then I think, the right amount of, drugs, music, a love advance that goes wrong within that episode kind of knocks her. And I think everyone gets knocked sometimes and kind of explodes a little. And so I think that that's one of the first times we really see the dimension of Diana, not just being the working woman.
Right. I mean, that's one of the things I love about the show. There's like the strong, independent, empowering, but also incredibly vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Like each one of you guys, I go like, oh my God, I'm rooting for you. Mm-hmm. There's a part how when Bonnie goes and takes her kids to catch her husband cheating, which I was like, oh my God. Literally, Donnie was with me and he was screaming, no. Right? Yes. And it was just, everyone's horrified. I can imagine just reading it for the first time. I would be like, no. Why does she take the kids instead of her friends?
Well, my mom took us everywhere. We were her whole, life. She was divorced, married, many times, 4. But we were always like, she was always said, I only care about my kids. I'm just in love with my kids. We went everywhere with her. And that is an inspired by story that, from something else, but actually did happen. My mom would do that. When she was married, the third husband, we would go and spy on him when they were like dating. And I was like, what are we doing? She's like, quiet. And I was like, turning the lights off outside. And I'm like, what's going on in there? She's like, I see a car. I think there's a woman in there. I mean, she overshared with us. Everything was just an open book. And, growing up the youngest, of 3 daughters and my mom, and our house was filled with women. My mom's village, because it takes a village to raise your kids, were all her girlfriends. So that's how I grew up. I heard everything. And then I learned a lot by pretending to be asleep and listening to it. I'd be like, and my mom just, figured, well, this is life.
You also mentioned she had a little bit of a temper.
Yeah, she did. She was very strong, fiery, Irish, redhead.
And Alicia, you're playing it in a way, though, that's not like Mommy Dearest. It's kind of more just like any mom who's a single mom with 3 kids, going, broke, that kind of frustration. I don't think.
Well, she wasn't Mommy Dearest, but she definitely had her moments, and she had a temper. I mean, I see some items fly that hit the wall a couple of times. No, not to us, but she definitely had that side of her. I remember we'd lock her out of the room, and there was a hole in the door from her going, "You better open that door." And she'd
Season 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Haven't we all had those moments? Or no?
I don't know. We had in different ways, but we always felt so loved and knew that we were her whole life. And,
I swear that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It really is. If you feel loved, what else can you possibly ask for?
Exactly.
Mena, your character Kathleen, she's got this financial stability, but that's not what she wants out of life.
No, I think that Kathleen, she talks about having 4 older sisters that are all married, and I think that she has this sort of independent streak that's brought her out to Los Angeles, and there's more that she wants. And when you catch her in 1975. It's unusual, for her age and whatnot, to not have a family and, be married. But you see her learning more about a business opportunity and how, you see her then eventually start a partnership that then guides her into believing that she can carry it on her own. But I think that because of the influences of her family and the societal pressures, she's feeling like she should be married and get into a relationship, and she is looking for love, and I think she simply wants to be happy at the end of the day. And
I want to say that Kathleen is dealing with what a lot of women that move to LA experience, like a guy that might not love her for her, that either wants her money or sometimes not even her vajayjay, because
He loves her though.
he does.
I think so.
Does he love her? I haven't seen that much into it.
What I love about their story is it's so complicated and interesting. Like I think we can out that he's out, right?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
the first
so he's
episode,
so he's a gay man, but in 1975, like that wasn't really being talked about a bunch,
Right.
and so you weren't able to be free that way, and
You're right.
I think he does. I mean, what I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but my experience of Cheyenne's performance is that he loves Mena's character, and he's just struggling. So he's struggling the whole time too. Like on the one hand, he wants to be with other men really bad.
Right.
But at the other side, and he doesn't really want to be with her that way.
I dated a lot of those ones.
But he doesn't want to have sex with her, Kathleen, but he loves her. And so it's this, I feel like he's struggling and he's trying to figure out where he's at. And she's struggling because she's like, I love him too. And so they're both, it's very hard, it's very touching.
That makes more sense to me now,
Well,
'cause
it
back
comes
then-
more as it goes on. But
Okay, because the clique groups of girls back then, of women, had their gay hairdresser, their fabulous, you know what I mean? And they couldn't really be out that much. And I mean, how many older couples that I know that have been married for 50 years where I go, oh, he never came out of the closet.
Yeah, right.
Because you couldn't back then.
Right.
So that gave me a way better perspective. Is Diana wound a little too tight? Would you say?
She starts pretty wound and she unwinds down the road by the end. I would say like she's buttoned up for different reasons. She's struggling with her own thing, and I think a sense of control, like when you feel like you feel safe when you feel like you're in control. And then I think throughout the series, she tries different ways to play the games that a lot of men play, but played especially in the 70s. So she's like, well, if men can do this, if we're going to play the game, Diana's going to play the game.
So you kind of give it back to them?
Yeah, she attempts to, but I think she attempts to, and then she kind of trips over herself a few times with a few men.
Which
We'll
is
say that.
completely relatable.
I mean, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Kyle, do you think that having your parents split up helped you or motivated you to keep your marriage together?
Oh, yes. I mean, as a child, I used to look at, my friends' parents that were married, and I'd go to their house, and the dad would come home from work in his suit with a briefcase, and they'd have dinner on the table at 6:00, and I was like, oh, that looks so nice. I used to dream of that. So it's something I always wanted, and I'm very proud of my marriage and how long we've been together. And I'm always like, God, it's like considering how I grew up, it's like a miracle. So I'm lucky that I found the person that I'm able to have that with.
I mean, and to say also, I would say, even back in the day when I was younger, there was the one friend that had a divorced,
Right.
And I'd be like, oh my God. It's like, but then I'd watch the mom take over. There's one on my block, and she had 4 girls. The husband walked out, and this woman worked, survived, thrived. Mm-hmm. And it made me always think, going, wow, what a great example. In case I ever need to fall back on that someday, I just saw someone be able to do that.
Right.
So I feel like this show is a great example of that.
Well, hopefully, I think it's inspiring in so many ways, you fall down, you got to pick yourself back up. And, there's a lot of women, whether it's in the 70s or now, that are single moms, and it's hard. It's a hard job. I have a lot of jobs right now with, doing the Housewives and producing the show and whatever I'm doing. But being a mom is absolutely the hardest job, but the most rewarding.
It's so hard. And then also to be a mom in the public's eye and under, with social media, to get attacked by mob mentality. I mean, I've been through it, being an activist. I mean, I've heard it all. And it can be really overwhelming at times, but I love standing by, my conviction, and I'm going to continue, and no one's going to knock me down. I know that you yourself have your own causes. How have you dealt with that mob mentality? That you don't have to be famous to experience.
Well, I think mostly it just comes from really knowing why you're doing what you're doing. Like I didn't arrive at these decisions like, oh, sounds like a good idea. I really, really arrived at the choices that I make through serious research and through experience and through the deepest part of my heart. Because, if we're talking about the Kind Diet, the book that I wrote, that was years and years and years of experience and research and talking to some of the most amazing doctors, and
which is a great book, by the way.
Thank you. So, if anybody has issue with it, I'm like, that's fine. Right. You can take whatever issue. Most of the people who have issues haven't read it. Right. That's what I've noticed. So when I wrote The Kind Mama, that's where people really went cuckoo, because
why?
Because there's trollers that pull out one sentence of a whole book and they take it out of context. And all I would ask is, if you're really that interested, read it, because it's a really good book.
and you did your homework.
And I did my homework, and it's backed by all the best experts out there. So it's not like the foreword is written by a pediatrician, like one of the greatest pediatricians in Hollywood. Like, so it's not like I made anything up. No. So,
do you think you're ahead of your time?
Well, it tends to be that I do tend to come out with things, and then later everyone figures out, oh yeah, that's totally right.
Exactly.
But it just takes a little
I've
while.
noticed that. I really have with you. So, I'm like, well, eventually people will see that she's right.
People will get it. But
Can't
in the
wait for that
meantime,
day.
you have to take a lot of abuse. But I don't really take it personally. And sometimes it's painful but most of it's never nice to be yelled at.
No.
But I also feel like, because I know what I'm doing, like none of these choices, I wouldn't write a book if I didn't believe what I was saying.
Correct.
So I absolutely feel comfortable. And I know that if you are interested in any of the sound bites that you hear, if they instead of just going, oh, that sounds nuts, it'd be interesting if you actually read it, because then you'll find, oh, you might actually thrive from hearing the information, and you may or may not like it. And if you don't, that's totally cool.
Thank you for saying that. I hope everyone heard that.
Yeah.
How about you, Kyle? Because I know you've dealt with mob mentality.
I think if you're passionate about something, it's easy to defend yourself, and regardless if someone agrees with my decisions or choices I make or things that I've said and done, as long as I'm being true to myself and honest, I can live with that. I can deal with it.
I feel like as long as you stand in your truth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the Housewives, there's obviously challenges all the time where, you think, oh, people don't know the whole story, and you said or did something, but, if I'm being true to myself and real, I can deal with that. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt me sometimes.
Right. Yes.
A lot less now after this many years.
Speaking of Housewives, do you think there'll be an appearance by anyone on the show?
No, I really didn't want to do that, actually. And they kind of one day said, oh, Kyle, why don't you be in the background of a scene? That would be kind of fun to have you, kind of pop up. And I was like sitting in my producer chair, and I was like, no, I think I'm good, thanks. But not only because I was just enjoying producing the show and not being in front of the camera, but because I didn't want to take anyone out of the moment. And it was really important to me in making American Woman that you really felt like you were in the moment in the 70s, and I didn't want any distractions.
Smart. And that's the same reasoning why we won't see, Erica Jane.
Yeah, we won't be seeing any of the Housewives. Sorry, ladies.
So, there was an announcement with Reese Witherspoon bringing back Elle Woods with Legally Blonde, which made me go, Cher. Cher, maybe?
You have to talk to Amy Heckerling. She never wanted to make...
Really?
She's a brilliant genius, that Amy Heckerling, and she never wanted to do another one, so that's why we never did.
My very first, I literally worked in a Polish grocery store for 7 years. I moved to LA. Within a couple of months, my first gig was singled out. And after 30 days of doing the show, they said you're going to host your very first premiere, and it was Clueless on the beach. And I was so nervous, and I remember like seeing you, and I'm shaking with my little microphone, and seeing the movie and going, "Oh my God, this is like the greatest like teenage movie ever." And I would just, can you have that conversation with her and say comebacks or?
I'll call her and tell her you said so.
Wait a minute.
After this,
Can I call her?
You can call her with me.
I mean, it's so interesting to me why someone wouldn't want to bring it back, but maybe.
Well, I think I don't know. I've never actually asked her.
Jenny,
So-
I think you should ask her.
I think
I have zero problem.
I remember where I saw it. I saw it with Bethany. What year did it come out?
95.
I was with
Something
Bethany
like that?
Frankel in Century City, and we saw it together. And we were like, of course, copying, using all your phrases from
As
the movie
if.
forever. Exactly. I think everyone remembers
I
that.
ran into Bethany. You talking about Bethany, the one who does Skinny?
Yeah, the one that does get Skinny Girl Margarita Bethany.
She was at she worked when I was in New York doing a play on Broadway when I was 25. She worked at a little cafe around the corner, and she had vegan cookies she was giving me.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
She also
really
worked at La
awesome.
Scala Boutique in Beverly Hills. That's how I met her. Yeah.
I mean, that friendship has been a long one.
A long one, I know.
And has she given you advice at all?
When I first started on the show, she said to me, like, so what's your plan? Like, and I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, I'm an actress. I didn't know. It was like, I just thought, okay, well, it's like a gig, so to speak. I didn't have any, like,
Of course,
master
Bethany's
plan.
like, where's your plan? Where are you
I
going
know.
with this?
I didn't have that. I wasn't like, selling anything or anything. I was just like living my life. I was like, isn't that what reality is? I'm a mom. So that's what I'm showing. But eventually, people start coming to you and you're like, I don't know if I want to do that. So
Has she tried to collaborate with you with anything?
no, we haven't. No.
Have any other women come to you to collaborate? I mean, because you're doing so well, sometimes in success, a lot of little minions come and find you.
Well, no, other people started coming in the beginning, like, right away, actually, season 1 was like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And I was like, no, I don't really want to do that. Plus, it's really a year-round job. People don't get that with the housewives. It is year-round. I mean, like, you finish, the reunion, and next thing you know, you blink and you're shooting again, and then you're doing press when you're not shooting. So, but people start coming to you, you should do this, you should do a hair care line, you should do that. And I thought, I want to just wait and sit back a little bit. I wrote my book and I did some things, but now with producing, it's something I really have always wanted to do. And I'm like, I've realized, oh gosh, this is amazing, because Bravo and Evolution has been so supportive. Evolution is the production company that does The Housewives. And they're so supportive of the show, and they're proud, and they're cheering me on, and they're filming me film that. So
I love
like,
it. I mean,
I'm doing
I
now
think
what
you're
want.
getting tons of support. Do you see, even from the public? Like, everyone's
I mean,
so excited.
It's unbelievable. I was just saying, the reviews and the comments I'm getting on my Instagram and Twitter for people who've seen the pilot, because you can watch it already. So people are unbelievably supportive, and they love it. And I've not had one, knock on wood, not one negative comment or tweet speaking about trollers, nothing like that. So it's been so exciting.
And speaking of support, I know, and I hate to even bring it up, but your sisters, has Kathy seen it yet?
They have not seen it yet. I sent the DVD to Kim, and last I spoke, she still hadn't figured out how to work her DVD player. When she goes, someone's coming over to hook it up, and I'm like, I don't even have one either. So I was like, I know. So I'm looking forward to them seeing it, when it airs. So they'll.
I remember there was an episode in The Housewives where you were with Dorit, and you started crying when she was like, oh, I'll support you. And you said, you know what? My mom always said, and maybe you can remember the quote, but it was something about...
all of our successes are a feather in all of our caps. And my mom raised us like that. So, yeah, I felt really bad. And I said it on the reunion that, that I even talked about that, because, they're not on the show. So it's like, I don't really want to go there and talk about them. But it was just so on my mind, because the night before I had gotten a call that I had sold, I have 2 other shows in development right now. So I'd gotten that call, and I was so excited. And I was like, I hung up the phone. I was like, who do I want to call? And I was like, I felt bad, and my husband is an incredible support system, and he's my biggest cheerleader. But, when you don't have your parents, like, you miss that. So when she asked me that, I started like, I'm the most emotional person. So I just started crying, and I'm like, oh God, what have I done? So
I thought it was really sweet, though. I mean, I think we can all, at least most people, relate to family problems or issues. I mean, I've gone through the same thing of like trying to introduce scripts based on my family, and it's very tricky. But I think, honestly, once they see it, they're going to go, Oh, it's totally fine.
You know, I mean, like I said, it's a fictionalized version of our life, but from my perspective, you know, I'm not here to tell their stories at all. And I'm coming from like the utmost respect for my mother and so much love for her. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to them seeing that.
And I think
you know,
our imaginations are sometimes way worse than reality. What you think it's going to be, or even any type of thing you're about to go to, you're nervous.
I
'cause you
call
fear
that
what you
making
don't
movies
know.
in our head, you know, like we make little movies that we
story.
think something is. So yeah, I'm excited for them to see the final product.
So who gets all the credit for the Kelly Clarkson choice? She sings
I think
the
that's
song.
the marketing team.
yeah, Paramount
Paramount.
Network.
I mean,
They did a really good job.
didn't they?
Yep.
I mean, out of anyone, I think there's no one better. That strong powerful
power.
voice.
Yes.
And I mean, did you guys have any like communication with her, give her support, or just said, "Oh wow, we got her"?
Not yet. Just I mean, I was so excited when I heard about that, and in the very beginning of talking about the show, it was so important to me, the music and the clothing, and anyone who's in this business knows how expensive music is. And I was like, I'm really scared you're going to say it's cost too much money to use this song. Like, I really need this song, and I really need the song American Woman. It's really important to me. So I was so excited.
And why the title?
Because I think, I mean, look at us. We're all American women. Look at us. We're just doing it all. And I wanted to show, us strong women, and just how they can do it all. That to me is what an American woman is, I'm a mom. I have stores. I'm producing. I think that if you put your mind out there, you can do whatever you want. And I just want something strong and powerful to send that message out.
Awesome. I want to go down the line. What experience in Hollywood do you think you've learned the most? What can you take with you in hindsight and go, wow, that was a really great life lesson?
Well, maybe I'll pivot because I think that that's so deep. And I think that more than that, I could say that what excites me, the life lesson that I'm constantly learning and that is so exciting to me about this show is that, we all get stuck, I think, in our lives. You can easily sort of say, like, this is good enough, or there's enough good that I'm just going to take all this other stuff. And it's very easy to just stay in a sort of stuck place. And I think what Bonnie does in the show, when she makes the choice in 1975 to say, when her husband grabs her by the arm and says, I'm the husband and you will do what I say and you will forget this. That's normal. Like, he's not even being a jerk. Right. Like,
that was
for the
typical.
time.
Well, my dad did not really do that.
No,
Just
right,
so
right,
that- My
right.
dad
You
really did.
And there was no knife for your mom. Like, that's somebody else.
Oh,
Like,
it could have been me.
But, but so for him to, when he says that to her, basically put your head down and just keep moving. She says, oh, no. And she takes up a knife and she's like going to kill him. That she's not thinking of where she's going. She's not thinking about the fact that she has no skills, no money, can't get a loan on her own without a man, she doesn't have a checking account, can't survive. Like, literally, she's not thinking of the consequences. She's just brave enough to react in this powerful moment, and then she's going to figure it out. And I think that lesson in life of maybe not being so irrational, but being willing to say, I'm going to take the leap and see, I have no idea what's on the other side. I have no idea what's on the other side ever, but I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do that. I've had to learn that over and over again. And it's a huge life lesson.
I think that is such a great answer. I want to put it on a plaque in my living room. I'm not kidding.
I like that pivot.
It was a beautiful pivot because I literally was trying to explain this to my son, who's on the spectrum. So he kind of wants to stay insulated in his house. And I'm trying to convince him, you have to kind of face your fears, expand your world. He didn't quite get what I meant. So I go, listen, you like to play Minecraft. So anyone that has had a kid that plays Minecraft, I said, you basically built a room. And just imagine you're stuck in that room and you never go outside the Minecraft world to see all these other things because you're scared and you just want to stay in your bubble. And literally within 2 weeks, like, he went out and built this entire world. And I was like, that is such a great metaphor. So thank you for that story. What about you, girl, Mena?
Well, let's see. To take it back to, like, what have I taken out of my experience in Hollywood?
Yeah.
This is such a big question.
I get deep sometimes.
No, I mean, I think about, just for me, I've really enjoyed the opportunity of getting to learn more about myself through the process of what I do. I sort of fell into what I do, and I find huge joy and appreciation and inspiration from being a part of this show, because what Kyle was talking about earlier, that's something that I'm very passionate about, ultimately getting to the point of being able to develop my own creative ideas. So that's something that I hope to sort of transition into more as I continue. But those are some of the things that I feel really grateful that I've been able to establish up to this point.
I love that. How about you, Jen?
Everyone's had beautiful answers. What if I was like chips? They have good chips in Hollywood.
Craft services.
Craft services. Well, that's true. I would say this business is so difficult, and so I think there's so many people trying to create, and we have this wonderful opportunity to be working together and be working artists. But there are some dark times when you're an actor or in Hollywood in general, and I think when you just reconnect with yourself and have that self-love and stay true to yourself. There's a lot of ways to get lost in Hollywood. There's a lot of like, what do they need me to do? I could do that. I don't need pants. Okay, what do I, bigger earrings? Like whatever it is, those are light things, but you know what I mean? Like stay true to yourself. You're on your own journey. Stick with that journey. And I also think it doesn't hurt when you are empathetic and you are kind and you put those good vibes out there. You want to be a pleasure to work with. And I think this is a gift that we all get to have, and it's really awesome. It's so cool to be here, but I think stay your path and know your worth. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Know your worth. Mm-hmm. Good one.
And now me.
Yes, ma'am.
There's so much negative talk, recently about Hollywood and all that. For me, it's been an incredible experience. I only had positive experiences growing up in this business, working with, starting little with, Michael Landon and just incredible people. And I think, what I've learned from this is I've learned a lot about myself in, producing the show, that I was a lot more capable than I realized. And just that, if you really dream big and you put it out there, you can, make your dreams come true. And I know that sounds very cheesy, but it really is. I mean, I've been in TV my whole life, and it's been very good to me, but all of a sudden to be, first with scripted television and acting, and then doing reality television, now producing, I just, I realize I'm capable a lot more than I knew before, and I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. That's why I create vision boards, because I go, I think I could try to do that someday.
Exactly.
Just to get a clear outlook.
Dream big.
Now for a little fun one, because I know you said that you got really nervous during auditions when you used to have to back in the day. I mean, I used to throw up. I used to cry.
Like, why are we in this business if we're so scared?
I don't know. It was my biggest fear. So I'm like, I'm going to run right towards it.
Yeah.
I would love to hear like your either worst audition or craziest audition or your most nervous one.
I remember one time I went in for like a commercial, and they asked me to come in a bathing suit, which sounds more like a horror film to me. I mean, I was like, that is like just the worst thing I could imagine. But I had to wear a bathing suit, and so this is the downside. And I had to get down on my knees. It was for like a Coca-Cola commercial, and pretend I was talking to a seal. And I was like, you know what? I'm good. I can't do this anymore. I'm like, wanted to get out of there. It was just so embarrassing. I was like, I can't believe this. And I'm like pretending to be talking to a seal in my bathing suit. And then they're like, okay, now just start dancing. We had to pretend there was music, and there's no music. And I just left there going, I'm just so embarrassed of myself. I'm the worst actress. Why am I in this business? And those moments just made me cringe. And I would sit on the casting sessions for American Woman and be so nervous for these actors. Right. And I would think to myself, oh my God, that actor was so good. And they're not going to get it because they just weren't the right vibe. But I didn't get that. Right. And I wanted to chase after them and go, you were so good. You're not going to get it still, but you were really, really good. Right. I just want you to know that.
They would appreciate that.
That's so true. How about you, Jen?
So I came up doing a lot of comedy out of New York, Upright Citizens, and sneaking away to commercial auditions, and then I started getting small roles here and there. And I got a call back for a Coen Brothers film, and I was like, it's happening. It's all happening. And then I over psyched myself out and I brought props. Like it was a one woman show where like I started like taking out a cereal box and a bowl and a coat. And she was like, what are you doing? And I mean, I wasn't new. I had been auditioning, but I wanted it so bad that I was like, it's the one woman show of Jen playing this role. And she was like, pack it up. And I did. And then I just left. And I just sat in like a park in the West Village. And I was like, oh man, don't ever do that again. I got
That
excited.
is so sweet.
Yeah.
And you didn't get it.
Oh no. No, I did not get it. I don't know.
Mena, how about you?
God, I'm trying to think. I mean, the first commercial that I booked and when I moved right before I moved to Los Angeles was for Rice Aroni, but it was so horrible. And I thought for sure I'm never going to get this job, and I got it. So, but it was a horrible experience. And then I guess there was another where I just remember there was this person who I found out later was the writer, who I guess if you're me and here's the camera, he was sitting on a chair and he just was holding my resume like this high, like right in front of my face the entire audition.
Oh, no.
And it was really hard to not like, look in that direction and yeah. Just intimidating, you know.
Right? Or like the scene in La La Land where someone's like on their phone or not paying attention, they're giving their all, and you're like, oh my God.
Well, and there were two producers, like there's always people in the back, like on a sofa, like this, you know, just kind of.
Or they wheel like a bagel tray in right when I'm about to go in. So everyone's just like smearing cream cheese and looking at me.
That's why when you're finally on the other side of the table, like you said, Kyle, you're like, that was so good. It was so good. You overly do it.
Yes.
Just because you feel bad. How about you? I can't wait.
Well, I have a silly story, but I'll tell you this first.
Okay.
That Jeff Goldblum once sent to me because I made the mistake of not auditioning for like 10 years. And bad choice. And it wasn't really my choice, but whatever. For whatever reasons, I didn't do that. And so much missed opportunity. And when I told Jeff Goldblum, like, oh, I'm going to go on an audition for this thing, and I'm nervous because I haven't been on audition for so long, he said, Alicia, I go in an audition because I want to audition the people I'm meeting with. I want to see what they have to say and because if they don't want what you're doing, then they just hire you. Then you don't know if you're not ever going to be giving what they really, then you're in a battle the whole time,
right.
And you may not like them. And it was such a good piece of advice. And he also said, don't you love acting? Like you're an actor. Isn't that why you do this? He's like, just go in there and have fun. And I swear, ever since he told me that, I have no problem auditioning. I love it. I see it as, because I love theater. So I see it as an opportunity to act. And it's like, I don't get to audition very often because it's not, that's not really the thing. But when there is something to audition for, it's really exciting. And you can tell by the audition process, working on the material, if you really love it or not. How much do you really care? Like, how juicy is this? And so I've really, I guess I'm not worried about it. I'm just going with artists and playing.
It's great.
I never felt that.
But yeah, it was really good advice. But then I was doing a play here not so long. I love doing theater, and I'd done like 8 plays. And one of the plays I did, I forgot on the first night I was supposed to bring the phone to carry it through to the next state, to the next setting. And I didn't bring the phone. And it's so important because I'm on the phone call in the scene. For the next thing. And I went into such self-loathing panic attack that I just couldn't get past it. It was like trauma. I had trauma for the next week on stage where I was like, why do I do this? I hate this. And I figured out how to get out of it very quickly. I just jumped past. But in that 1 minute, it was like a car crash. And when the show was over, everyone was like, that was so great. And I was just in such a state. And
Did you fake a phone?
No, I just passed over the phone call part, and I just decided that was the way to move forward. And I just, right when she came on, I said whatever I said to let her know, like, I jumped. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't say that. I was just like, we're going here with my eyes. But the panic attack, the whole performance, all I could think is, I hate being an actor. Why do I do this? This is the stupidest job in the world.
Oh my God.
I'm never doing this again. Someone should never, ever allow me to act ever. I mean, it was so bad. But then I come down and it was great. It was the greatest show ever. So it was fine. But it took like a week of getting past that madness. And I wore a blue wig to an audition one time because it said she wore a blue wig.
Thank you.
And then when I started talking, they said, can you please take that off?
No!
Well, as an actor, you're combing for tips and tricks. Like in hits, you're like, well, they're telling me to wear blue. Yeah.
I mean, granted, it was like a clown's wig. It was really bad, but still, I was like, you said it says, and they were like, take it off.
Oh my God. You guys, those stories are amazing. Thank you so much. I know they're making me wrap up here. I had so much fun talking to you guys, and I'm so excited for the world to see this show because it's empowering. You guys knock it out of the park. I'm fans of all of yours, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, studio audience.
Yeah.
I think we're going to take a picture, so you guys just hang on there.
Jenny McCarthy Show. Oh!